Good morning. After the first foreign ministers meeting in 3 years over the weekend, the possibility of a trilateral summit among Korea, China, and Japan still remains unclear. Former Prime Minister and founding father of Singapore dies at the age of 91 after a month-long battle against pneumonia. Several events were held in celebration of International World Water Day over the weekend. Our Chae Young-ju joins us with the details. And interior decorating made easier. Many are doing their own on their own, even in rentals. On Korea Today, Monday, March 23rd, 2015.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And a good Monday morning to you all. Welcome to Korea Today. I'm Kim In-jung with Kim Young and Jin-ju. Hope you had a great weekend, everyone.
And what a nice weekend it was. Temperature-wise, we even had some hazy sunshine coming through the fine dust matter that we were getting over the weekend. Of course, the weather was nice, but the fact of the matter is that the fine particulate matter and also a little bit of the yellow dust in the air did hinder some outdoor activities.
Right, but the good news is we're not going to see much of that fine dust today as the levels will go back to normal nationwide, but temperatures will stay low throughout the day, so do bundle up.
Right. And this weekend, some people actually chose to hit the slopes as the ski resorts, some of them will be closing after this weekend. So some people just made the most out of what is left of the winter. Is winter still here?
I think we can safely say that winter is out.
Gone now.
And now spring is in. Hopefully we can hope for some better air conditions, I think, coinciding with the warmer weather. Now, we're going to set that aside for now and jump to our top headline for this morning. It's still unclear whether a trilateral summit among Korea, China, and Japan will materialize within this year, despite efforts by the top foreign ministers of the three nations. Over the weekend, the first foreign ministers meeting in 3 years was held to work towards improving trilateral cooperation. A joint statement yielded an agreement to hold the summit at the earliest possible date, while the meeting confirmed Japan's denial of historical wrongdoing, along with territorial disagreements, remain the key issues hindering relations. Experts believe that Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's address at the commemorative ceremony marking the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II could play the biggest factor in whether a trilateral summit will materialize or not. Prime Minister Abe is also set to speak at Capitol Hill next month, becoming the first Japanese prime minister to do so. And what is contained in that speech could set the tone for future relations. A trilateral summit among the three Asian nations have not been held since 2012.
Senior political dignitaries from Korea and Japan have met in Tokyo to discuss restoring ties between their countries that have soured over disputes regarding their shared history and territory. On Sunday, the Korean delegation, which includes former National Assembly Speaker Kim Soo-han, former Prime Minister Lee Hong-gu, as well as other former foreign ministers, met with the Japanese delegation, including former Prime Minister Yasuo Fukuda and other senior political figures, and agreed to seek ways to improve ties between the two neighboring countries that they said are good old friends. The Korean delegates are set to pay a courtesy call on Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on this Monday morning. The senior statesmen from the two countries will make suggestions to their respective governments after their second meeting to be held in Seoul in the first half of this year.
Korea's economic growth forecast for this year is seen to be lower than expected, according to a private think tank in Seoul. The Korea Economic Research Institute lowered its 2015 growth outlook to 3.4% from the original forecast of 3.7% on Sunday. In its report, the think tank also lowered its global economic outlook to 3.5% from 3.8%. The revision was attributed to rising uncertainty stemming from Korea's exports to China in the midst of China's slowing economic growth. Consumer prices is expected to rise by 1.4%, according to the report, due to higher cigarette prices, the rising dollar, and higher public utility fees, but added lower international oil prices and weak demand is likely to counter those rates.
Yesterday, March 22nd, was World Water Day, designated by the United Nations. To celebrate the occasion, various events and campaigns were held around the world, raising awareness of the importance of water, and Korea was no exception. Our Cheong-ju went out to cover the events that took place here in Korea and joins us now here in the studio for more. Good morning, Hyung-ju.
Good morning, Jin-ju. As you said, various events, including forums, photo exhibitions, and even event of planting trees was held. And it involved more than 600 organizations and 170,000 people participating. Well, this year it's more special for Korea as it will host the 7th World Water Forum in the city Daegu, and it will address various issues related to water problems. So here's a preview on the upcoming forum. On March 13th, a ceremony commemorating World Water Day and a public meeting prior to the World Water Forum was held in Daegu, Gyeongsang-gukdo Province. Daegu has been selected to host the event as it was able to overcome water crisis in the region.
After we saved the environmental pollution from the industrialization, especially bringing the ecosystem to Nakdonggang River and Kumogang River, I believe the water management system of Daegu played a crucial role in hosting the World Water Forum here.
The World Water Forum will be held in 20 days, and at the pre-ceremony, about 1,300 officials of water-related organizations and citizens were in attendance. The last World Water Forum was held in Morocco, and the 7th Forum will be held here in Korea this year. The World Water Forum is referred to as the Water Olympic, the biggest water event in the world. It will be held in Daegu and Gyeongju from April 12th through the 17th. About 35,000 people from 170 countries are expected to participate. The forum will address a wide range of water-related issues. And as many discussions regarding green politics are expected, the event is attracting much attention from the international community. Especially at this year's forum, experts from around the world will come together to seek ways to resolve water shortage issues. Looking at the current trend in population growth and water supply, 2 billion of the global population of 6 billion is expected to suffer from water shortage starting from 2050. According to Population Action International, 30 countries in the Middle East and Southeast Asia are currently suffering from water shortages. Where does Korea stand in terms of water supply?
According to the Brundtland report by the UN, Korea's available water resources is only 1/6 of the world average, meaning we are a water insufficient nation. On top of that, our water consumption is 3.7 times more than that of Germany.
Water resources play an important role in deciding the existence of a country in the future. So countries are struggling and even fighting to secure their water supply. As a result, countries are striving to expand and develop the water industry. As of 2011, the world water market was $525 billion. Then Korea's water market was about $11 billion. Today, the world's water market has reached over $1.4 trillion.
The world water market has been increasing by 5% annually. According to British Water Research Institute Global Water Intelligence, the water industry will rise as blue gold and be worth $900 billion by 2025, exceeding the market size of oil and semiconductors. So Korea is trying to boost their water industry as a new growth engine.
Demand for domestic and industrial water supply is increasing worldwide. This is why the World Water Forum is considered an invaluable event.
I hope that the 7th World Water Forum this year can be a great opportunity for the whole country to appreciate the importance of water resources, learn to preserve, save and work towards providing good, clean water for everyone.
So it's quite alarming how in less than 40 years' time, 1 in 3 people around the world could face serious shortage in water supply. So what are the main causes, some of the main causes behind this threat, and what needs to be done?
Well, according to the latest UN report, that without significant global policy change, the world will have only 60% of the water it needs by 2030, which means in 15 years.
Right.
Yes. So, and also more than half of the world population drinks underground water. So if it becomes polluted, it would trigger a massive water shortage. So it's very important to conserve and protect groundwater from pollution.
So these challenges will be discussed at the World Water Forum that will kick off on April 12th in Daegu, Gyeongsang-Bukdo. But this forum is also expected to bring opportunities to Korean businesses who want to expand into the global water market.
Well, as we saw in the report, that the current world water market is $1.4 trillion, and it's expected to even grow even further. And also, the World Water Forum is expected to have an economic impact of $230 million. So analysts say that it will be a great opportunity for Korea to enter global water-related businesses such as mineral water and water supply management.
All right. Thank you, Hyungju, for that report this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers now. Most of the top stories today are regarding the potential materialization of a trilateral summit between Korea, China, and Japan. You heard about this earlier, but we'll get a few more details on this news, starting with 조선일보. And it says Korea, China, Japan summit depends on Abe's address. And we'll go ahead and look at these sub-headlines here. The foreign ministers of the three countries, Korea's Yoon Byung-se, China's Wang Yi, and Japan's Fumio Kishida, they agreed on Saturday to continue efforts to hold a summit between their leaders as soon as possible. However, due to China's opposition, citing Japan's continuous failure to acknowledge its past atrocities, the three sides were unable to come to an agreement on an exact date for the possible trilateral summit. Meanwhile, President Park Geun-hye met the top diplomats from the two neighbors and stressed that flowers do not bloom because spring has come, but that we know spring is here once flowers have blossomed, meaning further efforts and cooperation by the three countries are needed for a peaceful development of Northeast Asia. And we'll go on to the top header now on 중앙일보. And this one's about the two Koreas. It says, inter-Korean summit needed during President Park's third year in office. And once again, we'll go ahead and look at these sub-headlines. Now, this is a concerted claim made by experts studying issues related to North Korea at the 4th anniversary of the founding of an academic conference dubbed the Korean Peninsula Forum. The scholars stress that the Park administration must come up with a groundbreaking opportunity in order to make its Unification Bonanza initiative a success, and that a breakthrough must be made sometime within this year during Park's third year in office. They further emphasize that an inter-Korean summit is essential for this, and that a special envoy who is experienced in North Korea policy and capable of communicating well with the North needs to be found. And today we'll go on to our business dailies. First here on the Mail Business newspaper. First, the story is titled 13 Korean Game Masters Exodus to China. The paper says Korea's status as a key player on the stage of electronic sports or esports is faltering, especially since the country's major 13 pro gamers have left Korea for China or other countries after being offered large sums to make the transfer. If we take a look at this graph here, even if we compare the difference in the scales of prize money or the size of viewers between local and international game competitions, the gaps are in fact very significant. If local competitions have some $800,000 in prize money, international competitions offer more than $5 million. And when it comes to the size of the audience as well, if there's some 2 million esports viewers in Korea, there's more than 11 million for overseas competitions. And finally, wrapping up with a Korea Economic Daily for another top headline. It says, a warm breeze in the new three lows, economic sentiment reviving. Now, by a warm breeze in the new three lows, the paper means a rosy outlook for the three areas that had been continuously stagnant, and they are the low interest rate, the low oil price, and the low won per dollar. If we go ahead and look at these sub-headlines, with the Bank of Korea's recent cut in the key interest rate, the housing market has been reviving along with the stock market as well. And with the government's push for a fiscal expansion, the real economy seems to be taking a turn for the better. And that was a look at our local headlines this Monday. And following are the stock numbers from Friday.
Morning lows this morning hovered around the freezing point. We can all agree that spring is here, but mornings are still very chilly.
Yep, that's right. The cold is lingering around. And for more on today's weather and to see if we're going to get any more of that dust, we'll go to Chun Song-cho. She joins us from Gangnam.
Good morning to you, Song-cho.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. We were enjoying warm spring weather last week. Then this week, a cold snap and dry weather warnings are back to ruin the party. Mercury levels plunged just below freezing overnight as a high-pressure system over northern China continues to send cold air our way. And along this might come more yellow dust and smog to affect the air quality around the central regions. Fine and microdust levels recovered to average last night after warnings were in effect the entire weekend. But people with respiratory problems, children, and the elderly should watch out for a possible change in the conditions throughout the day. And we also have the dry weather to worry about. Advisories have been issued in the majority of the country except for the southwestern regions and a few patches of inland areas. And warnings are in place as well in some parts of Gyeonggi-do province. There have been reports of wildfire breaking out here and there across the country, so people should definitely take extra precautions. And with that, let's take a closer look at today's temperature readings around the nation. Temperatures are currently hovering around the freezing point, 0.3 degrees Celsius here in Seoul, with a wind chill making it feel colder than that. You'd want to dress warmer today than you did last week. Mercury levels will peak at 10 in the afternoon while topping at 14 in Busan. This is all for me with the weather forecast. Back to Minjang in the studio.
We will begin with news out of Singapore this morning. The country's founding father, Lee Kuan Yew, has died at the age of 91. Our Eunice Kim is standing by at the news center for more on this and other global headlines. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning.
This piece of news many in Singapore find deeply saddening because, for better or worse, he was a beloved figure in Singapore who made the country what it is today.
That's right, Minjang. He was Singapore's first prime minister and had served in that role for 31 years, credited for transforming the small former British colony into the wealthy global hub that it is today. Lee Kuan Yew had been hospitalized since early last month for a severe case of pneumonia, and Singaporeans were forewarned over the weekend that Lee's condition had turned for the worse. And earlier this morning, the office of Lee's son, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, with deep sorrow, announced the elderly's passing at Singapore General Hospital at 3:18 a.m. local time. The Cambridge-educated lawyer heavily invested in creating an educated workforce and also attracted foreign investors to make the city-state into a manufacturing hub. He was also criticized for limiting free speech and squashing dissent, but at least on this day, many will be mourning the passing of a disciplined and successful leader with a long legacy. On to other news now. The head of America's Central Intelligence Agency has issued a warning against Iran amid ongoing negotiations over downsizing its nuclear program. CIA Director John Brennan, in an interview with U.S. program Fox News Sunday, said Iran would build a nuclear bomb at their own peril should the nuclear talks break down. He expressed confidence in the intelligence capabilities of his agency, saying that it had a good understanding of what the Iranian nuclear program entails. He added that the U.S. had a number of options available to it to prevent Iran from getting a bomb.
Now, the other big news this morning is the declining political situation in Yemen. The country appears to be getting closer to an all-out civil war.
Yeah, that's right, Minjung. The Shiite Houthi rebels, which had effectively ejected the country's UN-backed president, is expanding their grip on the country from the north to the south with their takeover of the strategic city of Taiz. Now, after this operation, the Shiite rebel leader Abdel Malek al-Houthi, in an hour-long speech, fiery speech at that, aired on television, promised to expand his reach to the south, where President Abed Rabo Mansour Hadi had taken refuge. He called Hadi a puppet to regional and international powers and added that the Houthis would also pursue Sunni militants responsible for recent suicide attacks on supporters in the capital of Sana'a. They're seeing residents in Taiz taking to the streets to protest the militants' presence. Now, on Friday, suicide attacks on 2 mosques in Sana'a had killed at least 126 people and wounded several others, many of them supporters of this Houthi group. The Islamic State, which is a Sunni group, had claimed responsibility for those strikes. The UN Security Council is engaged in an emergency meeting to discuss this deteriorating situation in Yemen after its president appealed for a UN intervention. The U.S. military has also pulled out its remaining forces out of Yemen, citing the deteriorating security situation. Minjung.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you, Eunice, for that.
You bet.
And coming up later on Korea Today, we use the term bird's eye view, but what does that really look like? We'll show you Dubai from an eagle's point of view. Look at that. And how has the concept of beauty in physical appearance changed over the years? All of this and much more coming up on Viral Feed.
Work by a famous German artist who's known for her emotionally powerful work, much of it inspired by the aftermath of the First World War, is on display, and our Im Yoon-hee joins us to tell us a little bit more about that. Good morning.
Good morning. Right. So the artist Käthe Kollwitz, she really became known for and touched millions of lives for her works depicting people in poverty and depicting those devastated by the war. Now, there's a rare opportunity to see many of her original works here in Seoul. Take a look.
A mother, desperate to feed and fend for her children in a country ravaged by war. The image is one of over 50 original works by the 20th century German painter, printmaker, and sculptor Käthe Kollwitz that are being shown at the Seoul Museum of Art. But inside these charcoal sketches, inside the shadows, are hungry children, traumatized mothers, the victims of poverty in World War I, people that artist Kollwitz just couldn't ignore.
After the war, the remaining families had a very hard time. There was no relief in sight, no counselling, and no one to defend them. This artist chose to bring attention to them.
The exhibition is divided into 2 parts. One, dedicated to the squalid lives of members of the working class prior to 1914, while the latter part shows works that illustrate the living hell experienced by people in Germany in the aftermath of World War I. Kollwitz was a well-recognized and respected artist in the art community, but she went beyond an artist and contributed to humanity, bringing awareness to those left in the shadows of this world.
So it would seem that Kollwitz lived through the First World War and was there to witness basically the aftermath of the poverty and the situations that arose. Can you tell us more about her relation to the war, to the that period?
So Kollwitz was married to a doctor, and so before the war, they actually tended to many people, poor people, and so she saw that, and that really affected her work. But during the war, she lost her son to the war, and that really affected her work. So many of her works were titled things like Grieving Parent, The Sacrifice, so art became her outlet at this time.
Not only an outlet, it also left a legacy not in the form of art, but in societal factors as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right, so there are 40 different schools named after Kollwitz, so many people were inspired by her as an artist. There are definitely movies, books, and also different modern dance pieces that also take inspiration from the artist. But there are also statues, some made by Kollwitz and some inspired by Kollwitz, that are put up all over the world, and many of these commemorate the victims of the war and people that Kollwitz really wanted to bring to the center of attention.
Okay, sounds great. This seems to be a not-to-miss exhibition. Thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
All right, still ahead on Korea Today. Are you looking to redecorate your home? Well, let's go beyond just decoration, but let's go to interior design. Now, there's a lot of people that's doing that on their own, and they're self-taught. Self-taught interior decorating is the latest boom in Korea these days, and not just amongst those who own their own homes, but for renters and leasers too. Interior decorating that's easy and practical by the non-professionals. Check out the details on #CuriousInKorea.
A moving truck caught fire in the middle of a road here in Korea, but fortunately the fire was put out even before the firefighters arrived.
That's right. That's because a fish transporting truck that was passing by used the water that it was carrying to help put out that fire. Talk about being at the right place at the right time, right? Our Ms. Sorang has more on this. Good morning to you, Ms. Sorang.
Good morning. Yeah, the fish truck was going past just at the right time, and he could have kept going past, but he decided to pull aside and give a helping hand. So this whole incident occurred this past Friday afternoon in Seongnam City of Gyeonggi-do Province. The moving truck here catches on fire and pulls to the side. The driver tries to contain the fire, but it keeps growing bigger. At that moment, a fish transporting truck pulls up nearby. It's the blue truck that you see here. The driver gets out and uses the water in his truck to put the fire out. You can see the red flames quickly turning into white steam. And thanks to the fish truck, the fire is all put out even before the firefighters arrive.
But was there no fish in that fish truck?
Very good question. What did you suggest?
No, because all the water that's been used to put out the fire, what about the fish?
Yeah, it's like a very good question, because like you said, there wouldn't have been water if there was no fish there, or if there was dead fish. So for the fish truck driver, using the water in his truck meant that he did sacrifice the livelihood of all his fish. So it was a very noble and a selfless thing to do. Now moving on to another act of goodwill, volunteers are helping out farmers in rural areas. With the spring farming season just around the corner, many farmers are bringing their cultivators, mowers, and other equipment out of winter storage. Some of them might be broken and need fixing, but for many struggling farmers, it's simply too expensive. That's where these volunteer workers come in. Teams of around 60 mechanics go around remote farming areas and set up temporary repair booths to check troublesome equipment and fix them for free.
So I believe that it's not their first time that they've been helping out in the rural areas.
Right, you might have heard about this before, because these volunteer teams, they're organized by the local branches of Nonghyuk, or the National Agricultural Cooperative Federation. And in some areas, the tradition has been going back 25 years, where they fix hundreds, if not thousands, of equipment every year for free. And wrapping up, according to Bloomberg and research market company Euromonitor, Korea has the highest per capita consumption of noodles in the world. Now, if we have a look at this graph here, Koreans on average had around 9.7 kilograms of noodles last year per person. Now, this includes ramyeon as well as all the other types of noodles. Other Asian countries followed Korea, Japan, Indonesia, China, and Vietnam. Actually, all the top 10 countries were Asian countries, and according to Bloomberg analysts, they say that Asia accounts for 85% of the world's total noodle consumption, despite having only 60% of its population.
That's it. I'm having ramyeon this morning.
Yeah, I think we contributed to the statistic.
Every morning.
Every morning. But I mean, who can blame us? It tastes so good.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Arirang, for that.
You're welcome.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in the KBO, where the spring exhibition games in the league ended on Sunday, with the 10 teams now getting ready for the new season of baseball. And with the season kicking off on Saturday, the Nexen Heroes, even without Kang Jung-ho, finished the spring exhibition games in first place, marking it the first time in the team's history. And with the NC Dinos, the Tucson Bears, and the LG Twins finishing in second, third, and fourth respectively, the defending champions, the Samsung Lions, find themselves in 8th place, just ahead of the expansion teams Suwon KT Wiz and the Hanwha Eagles. Now the big question is, will the spring training standings be similar to the regular season standings? Now, LA Dodgers lefty Yu Hyun-jin's spring certainly started off well with a couple of nice starts against the San Diego Padres and the Texas Rangers, but things have turned for the worst as Yu Hyun-jin is expected to miss some time due to an injury. Now, according to LA Dodgers manager Don Mattingly, Yu Hyun-jin will miss his next spring start due to another shoulder inflammation, and at the worst, start the season on the disabled list. Now, last year, Yu Hyun-jin spent some time on the DL because of the same injury, as the Dodgers hope this latest setback isn't as serious. Now, after the Changwon LG Sakers even the series at 1 game apiece this past Friday, they look to make it 2 straight at home in Changwon. But the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus with other plans in this game, as they took a slim 19-17 lead in the first quarter before going into halftime with a nice 42-32 lead. And despite the LG Sakers trying to rally in the second half of the game, Mobis' Ricardo Ratliff with another monster game here, putting up 25 points, 17 rebounds, as Mobis hangs on to win Game 3, 86-79, and are now 1 win away from another championship series. Now, meanwhile, over to the first round of the Women's V-League playoffs, where the IBK Altos found themselves 1 win away from yet another trip to the championship series as they took on the Hyundai Hill State on Sunday. Now, overall, a monster game from Hyundai Hill State's Polina Raminova as she puts up a game-high 43 points on the day, but IBK doing a better job spreading the offense around as Destiny Hooker, Park Jung-ha, and Kim Hee-jin all put up double figures in the game. And at the end of the day, IBK dominates Hyundai Hill State, taking the first 2 sets before finishing it off in 4 sets as they advance to the championship series against Korea Expressway. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Simon O, and that, of course, means it's time for Viral Feed. I know it's never easy easing back into the work week, but don't worry, I'm going to ease the transition with a lineup of excellent stories. Here's what the internet's been abuzz about this week. We're going to start with our first story. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not exactly the most stylish guy I know. In fact, things happen so quickly in terms of trends and what's in style and what's not. I'm always behind. So I would appreciate an overview of how styles change in cycles. And thankfully, we have a video that does just that. It's an overview of Korean beauty in the past century, decade by decade. Now, interestingly, the video also includes images of North Korea. Let's have a look at all the changes. This is a look at beauty in Korea, and we start in the 19-teens. Back then, large decorative ornaments and hairpins. These were in style, as you can see, with the Joseon period artist Lee Nan-hyang. Then in the 1920s, women began wearing thicker curls in their hair and accessorizing with pearls. An example would be this woman, Yoon Sim-deok, who was Korea's first soprano. In the 1930s, women were wearing deep red lipstick and hats. And here's Park Hyang-nim from Korea's first ever girl group, the Cheogori Sisters. And then popular styles were simplified, as you can see, for the 1940s. This here is singer Lee Nan-young. Now, interestingly, starting in the 1950s, the styles begin to diverge with the country divided by the Korean War. So different styles were preferred by the two Koreas. As you can see overall, the North favored simpler bob cuts, whereas here in the South, the styles were a bit more extravagant. You see hair accessories, jewelry, and colored makeup. Now you see the model on the left copying the moves of famous singers through the ages. And I think you can tell the influence comes from artists like Girls' Generation or Psy. And having seen this rather exhaustive video, my question now is, what will styles be like 100 years from now in the future?
Probably back to where it all started.
Hopefully.
Fashion goes around.
Hopefully. You see this bow tie? I wore these things since I was about yay high. And throughout the years, I've been made fun of a lot. Thankfully, I think partially because of Psy, they've sort of come back into style. And now they're sort of not again.
Well, we like to think that you brought it back in style.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. All right, let's move on to our second story here. Now, the weather is getting warmer. It's a little chilly today, but it is steadily getting warmer. And as a result, I'm already looking forward to enjoying some cool, refreshing watermelon. But it's not an easy fruit to prep with its thick, hard rind. So here's a look at how the experts do it. These high school boys are taking it in turns to place rubber bands on this watermelon. What are they trying to do here? Any guesses?
Oh, no.
Wow. It's part of the prep process, and as they get to about 700 rubber bands, can you guess what's going to happen? Ooh, the tension builds one by one.
I can't watch this for some reason.
It's like Russian roulette. And Michael Bay, eat your heart out.
Wow.
That is an explosive watermelon.
So how are you supposed to eat that out?
Exactly, not quite as edible. Speaking of which, look at this golfer. That is an impressive shot, and it's great to look at, but you do have to ask, how edible is that going to be? Now, if you don't have a knife on hand, no worries. Here's what you do with a coin. You stick it into the rind, go all the way around, and then a quick karate chop. Pow! There you go. Nice and easy. And if you want to be a bit more refined and wine sippy with your drink, there you go. You cut a spigot with a disposable cup, and then with a wire hanger attached to a drill, you liquefy the inside. You see that? And after that, you put the spigot in. You can fortify it a little bit if you'd like something a little stronger, and voila, delicious.
Cool.
That is cool.
That's very cool. Make sure you use the seedless, though.
Hopefully. Hopefully. That's it, though. Which do you think would be the most convenient to use? Because
the coin.
Yes, the first two, as impressive as they are, you do have to ask, how edible is that watermelon
what's
going
on the
to
screen
be?
right now, I think that's the biggest party trick there.
Yeah, this looks like a crowd pleaser. Can you imagine this at a picnic? That would be a lot of fun, right? So as the weather gets warmer, that's something we can look forward to. Now on to yet another video. If you've seen the last Mission Impossible movie, you'll remember Tom Cruise climbing up the side of an enormous skyscraper. So for acrophobes like me, it was pretty intense. But one thing I didn't get enough of in that movie was a view of the entire city from the top. And here is a rather interesting perspective on that. Let's have a look. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai, UAE is the tallest building in the world, stretching 829 meters into the sky. Now look at this skyscape. Any ideas who the videographer here is? Who is the cameraman?
Eagle?
It does look like an eagle, doesn't it? People on the ground are wondering the same question. Who is taking these excellent photos? It is an eagle with just 10,000 specimens left in the world. It is an endangered species, sadly. Now, this video was actually taken as part of a project by an animal protection agency in France, and their idea was to generate public interest in their cause. Look at that video. What a gorgeous view.
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
He decides to just take the camera and just run
Fly
off to the
freedom,
wild.
right? Actually,
bye-bye camera, bye-bye endangered bird.
I was a little bit worried about that, and also because it's so high, even for an eagle, it seemed a little bit dangerous. And as it turned out, this is an animal protection agency, so they actually went there a month in advance. And they spent the month training the bird to sort of grow accustomed to the conditions there.
I thought it was an artificial bird, but it's
it did look like something robotic.
Yeah,
I mean, we see drones and helicopters taking some incredible footage nowadays, but this is something else. Gives a whole new meaning to the term bird's eye view.
Right. It gives the real meaning to the term bird's eye view.
Yeah, exactly, literally. Alrighty, now for our final story. It is a good one. We take a look here every week on Viral Feed at some of Korea's best advertising. Now, when someone mentions irons, you think of laundromats. When they mention shopping carts, you think of the supermarket. But we're about to see a happy group of people holding on to these items and many more in the streets. And it's our job to guess what they're so excited about. Let's have a look. Look at her go with that shopping cart. What is she so excited about?
Shopping.
Yeah. Well, in the streets, we have a stove cover here. And this young man on the subway has an iron. This lady who's walking through the streets is very happy with her spade, or a spade in each hand actually. And as for these speed-addicted skateboarders, they're holding stone
Wow, this one's a tough one.
washing boards. Any guesses? What do those items all have in common?
Made of steel.
Pork.
Huh?
Turns out that the shopping cart is a fine stand-in for a grill, as is the iron, as is a spade.
How about the shopping cart?
The shopping cart, it's basically like a wire grill, and they place it on a fire to grill their meat.
And so this is for an ad for what?
It's an ad for Korean pork. Delicious, irresistible Korean pork. And it highlights, you know, with all the different tools we have around us, it's easy to MacGyver up a grill and enjoy a taste. And I like this ad because if someone asks me, Simon, what's the problem with pork? I will very emphatically answer nothing. Nothing is the matter with pork. In fact, we talked about Koreans having the highest per capita consumption of noodles recently. Well, actually, Koreans also have the highest per capita consumption of pork belly. And I'm guessing that my contribution to that figure has been sizable. So this is a great ad. I like the idea of taking all the things around us to enjoy something as familiar and as comforting as pork. That was the ad for this week.
Sounds great. I'm going to keep some of those tips in mind on my next camping
Especially
trip.
that iron, you know, you could iron your pork belly.
Exactly. I think that's going to be my next my next picnic menu. It's going to be barbecued pork and maybe some watermelon punch. All right.
Great idea.
Sounds
All right.
great.
That's going to be it for me this week. I'll see you next time for more.
What's in a name? What's in my sleepy eye?
Okay, if you were planning to decorate your home, I know Minjung's been looking through some interior pictures to try to figure out what to do next. This might be for you because you can do it all your own.
Except I just buy things. I never like to do it myself. It's not DIY that I'm into, but this segment, in the meantime, is about DIY interior decorating. Right?
That's right. It's easy to do, and they'll give you ideas on what materials to use. And Megan Bowen joins us with more on that. Good morning. So, did you get some ideas for your home?
Yes, actually I did. And you know, in America it's very like a normal thing for people to do DIY or like fast self interior, and we have many, you know, stores dedicated to that. But when I came to Korea, I realized that it wasn't so much, and then I found out about something called chunse, and that might have been a reason why many people weren't doing it.
Now, chunse is that way of rent, right?
Right. It's kind of a lump sum rental system unique to Korea, where the tenant pays up to 70 to 80% of the actual price of the house.
Right.
So the contract expires in about 2 years. So it might be kind of risky to spend too much in decorating.
So if you,
chunse
I mean, in
home.
theory, if you could keep continuing with that contract after 2 years for years on, then doing the interior, that might be something wise to do. But in many cases, people end up moving around.
And so you don't buy the house, right? You just
rent it,
and then you get it back and then go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that was the thing I didn't understand.
No, they keep it.
Well, you could just buy one then. So for this report, you know, I went to discover, you know, how these days many more Korean people are doing self-interior and many stores are popping up and things like that. So I did a report. Let's check it out. Self-taught interior decoration refers to decorating interiors of homes without the help of experts. It includes various elements like furniture, layout, painting, wallpaper, and even furniture building.
So let's go and find out the special points about self-interior and why it's been trending in Korea so much. Let's go inside. Industries related to interior decoration have been enjoying a windfall lately. I went to visit one large-scale shop specializing in relatively cheap, affordable interior decoration products that cater to a young clientele. I love that store.
There are many things I want to buy because there's a lot of cute, pretty products. I like to put them in the children's room.
I appreciate that the prices are cheap and that's easy to change the atmosphere in the home with products that are simple to install.
So I just moved into a new house and there's so many things that I just wanted to buy. I don't think I really needed them, but I definitely wanted them. And they're great additions to my new home, so I'm gonna keep looking.
With the home being seen less as simply a place to just stay and more as a way to express one's unique personality, DIY decorations are becoming increasingly important.
It's similar to the trend of showing others. With the development of SNS, the acts of sharing and showing off are becoming more popular.
With things like Northern European interior design all the rage, I think people start out of curiosity at first and then discover the fun of purchasing affordable items and using them to decorate.
So what are the factors that contributed to this trend? We can start with the rapid increase of single-person households. Most of them are younger people who are unable to afford their own home, but the desire to make their home feel more cozy and more comfortable, regardless of how long one might live there, manifested itself as the recent self-decorated interior trend. So let's take a look firsthand at the types of interiors this trend has created. Until quite recently, Korean rental tenants typically didn't warm to the idea of spending their own money to decorate a home that belonged to someone else, which makes sense. But that mindset has been changing rapidly, and the only limitation is that the decorations can alter the overall structure of the home.
The house is over 20 years old, so I didn't like the wallpaper or moldings. I considered just compromising because it's a jeonse rental, but I made the decision to spruce it up because we're newlyweds.
The major advantages of DIY interiors are the low cost and high levels of satisfaction. It's fun to be able to choose textures, colors, and shapes according to one's own taste at affordable prices. And it's also great fun to do things by hand.
We did the floor for about 50,000 won, a savings of about a third compared to hiring a contractor or using better materials. As you can see, it's a marble effect, and it's done with easily attachable and detachable sticker tiles.
Social networking services and blogs have helped accelerate the self-taught interior decorating trend. For tasks that go beyond simply laying out furniture or painting, power bloggers began to post instructions on things like high-quality decorative items and furniture building. This helped turn Korea's interest in the topic into something a bit more professional. So I went to visit an expert to pick up a few tips. The house felt like a cafe, colorful and filled with affordable decorations.
Wow, it's so nice in here.
Most of the furniture and decorative items were made by Mr. Hwang himself with recycled materials.
So what kind of tips do you have for people who want to do their own self-interior?
The first task I tackled was painting.
The first tip he recommended was to define an overall concept. No matter how pretty the items you use, they can tend to look jumbled if you don't match them up properly.
Lighting is essential for interior decoration. They have the effect of changing the entire atmosphere.
The second tip, lighting. Even potentially boring interiors can be made much more atmospheric with the right light. In fact, he actually made the lights you see here himself.
Decorative items are also essential. I made this using foam board and cloth.
The last tip is to finish decorating with the right decorative items.
I made this based on a photo of a wall in a magazine.
These dishes too were handmade by Mr. Huang himself. He said that with just a bit of attention and effort, anyone can make such items, so I decided to try it myself.
Came out a lot better than I expected.
The technique is simple, but it requires a great deal of concentration.
이런 거 만들 때 어떤 팁이 있나요?
간격이 가장
네.
중요하잖아요.
네.
그러니까 요게 간격을 맞춰주는 거예요.
Oh, wow.
이렇게 붙이고
네.
나중에 붙일 때 이렇게 붙이고.
Everyday items you normally wouldn't pay attention to can become fabulous decorations with a bright idea or two or
With a bit
three.
of patience.
So, finding objects in your area and remaking them into other things in your home is a very amazing idea, not to mention fun, but also very beneficial. So I hope that you guys can get some encouragement from that and completely change up the feeling in your home. So get out there and start doing self-interior.
That contrast between the before and also the after, and you
Right.
see the actual processes that it goes through. It's amazing. How did you feel trying to put that together and putting the stickers together?
Right, making your own accessories.
It was actually really awesome, and I think one of the hearts behind like DIY and self-interior is just creativity. Like he didn't use a ruler, he's just like, I'm gonna cut this paper and just keep moving the paper, and that's how we're gonna make sure it's even.
Mhm.
So I learned a lot of creative tips, and it was good in that way because I'm actually always looking for ways to decorate my home, just spruce it up a little bit, you know, single woman can't live in just a boring place.
That's right. Well, now you have some ideas there. You know, actually our new sum up, Sami Sorang, she actually knows how to lay down the tiles just like a
Really?
professional. But for people like me,
Right.
we just use these little stick-on ones. These are
Right.
called deco tiles, right? And basically it simulates wood, and it's like a strip of vinyl in a way. And at the end, there's a backing that you can remove.
It's a
stick.
Wow.
And you go ahead and just stick that on somewhere.
Not on your body.
Well, it goes on
A
the
bad
floor.
tip there.
But just to show you
Sure.
the adhesive strength of
Wow.
it, it's just it's not coming off.
And they're
Uh-oh.
really cost effective as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's so amazing. She said she did the whole place in our floor for like 50,000 won.
Should do the floors
and we
over
have
here.
these artificial grass blocks as well.
Right.
This is to decorate the, I guess, the veranda space, huh?
Right. Or you could even hang, I've seen them where they were like hung on the wall and people just like drapes flowers on them, and it just made a really cool like space, you know.
And we also have these lightings. They're running on batteries, and nowadays people go for these kind of lightings because they don't want to get bothered by the cord,
Right.
and because you can only use the ones with the cord in a limited space where the water.
And one thing is the LEDs, because they're LEDs, the batteries they can power them for a long
And
time.
it's like simple like this. You just have to press the button here, on, and then out.
And sometimes all those cords can really ruin the atmosphere.
Right.
All those little messy
And trip
cords.
over.
Right,
Right.
trip over them.
You have to find like a
And
creative-
I'll show you a little trick. And this is another interior idea. And you get a little candle like that, and then ta-da!
Ooh.
And then it lights up like that.
And then it gets brighter, just like as if you're lighting a real candle.
Right.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty neat.
huh?
Those things are super cool. And so actually these days another term has come up, you know, besides DIY, which is called, you know, fast living or fast living decoration. And it's not necessarily you taking something and making a new thing, but maybe lots of kits that come up so you can easily, you know, prepare and easily make things. And the idea is kind of like how you change your clothes every day. You know, you can change the interior of your home, you know, very easily and affordably in that way.
Not every day, right?
Every day, of course. You wake up angry, everything turns blue.
Okay, so stepping away from these tiles, if you want to do something major like the interior designer, the DIY guy, he was saying that basically the first thing you have to do is come up with a pattern and also come up with a concept. And that starts with the walls, but painting or wallpapering those walls, if you've ever tried it before, it is something that you leave to the experts. It's very difficult, isn't it?
It is very difficult, but I've seen lots of ways that people are very creative online with how they use to like keep everything up. I can't think of exactly how to explain them now.
But
you can
these
do it.
websites and these bloggers, these power bloggers, they give you a lot of tips on how you can do that the simplest way possible.
Right. So there's a ton of blogs these days, I'm saying. Actually, many of the people that we met today had vlogs. Mr. Huang, he also, had a vlog where he does like DIY and cooking and things like that. But I think the vlogs is what makes it so awesome. You find a simple way to do something, you make a vlog, everyone sees it, and people can expound upon it and make their own, creative things in their home as well.
As far as painting the wall is concerned, I say have small children and they'll do it for you. They'll scribble on the walls all they want and you're good to go. All right, well, jokes aside, thank you for this interesting report. Megan, see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, this is where we say goodbye on this Monday morning.
All right, thank you for joining us, and stay a little bit warmer out there. It's just a tad bit colder than it was yesterday. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.
Deco Tile?
Sure.